Welcome to New Connection, where you can tune in and grow. I'm your host, Vicki Thompson. You may be familiar with New Connection magazine for conscious living, which has been enjoyed by readers in the Pacific Northwest for more than 20 years. Now we're excited to bring New Connection to life on your home. On New Connection, we welcome authors, practitioners, and visionaries to share new ideas for alternative health, spirituality, and personal growth. Today, I'd like to welcome to New Connection Alison Chester-Lambert, who's the author of The Future in the Stars, the astrological message for 2012 and beyond. She also is a BBC astrologer and the founder of the Midlands School of Astrology in the United Kingdom. Alison, welcome to New Connection.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here.
We're excited to have you here. You've flown across the pond from the United Kingdom, and you're here promoting The Future in the Stars.
Yes, just 6,000 miles to tell you about it.
Just that. We're so excited to have you here. Part of your research, you've done extensive research for the book, and you've tied together findings from the science community with the spiritual community, which we don't normally see.
Yes.
How did you put the two together?
It's amazing. The more that science is discovering, the more that it seems to echo the paradigms or the spiritual understandings that ancient races had thousands of years ago. And in actual fact, when you read the science and you read the ancient texts, the two things are moving very closely together. But the funny thing is that neither side knows that this is happening, because neither side wants to be associated with a group of people that they consider to be unenlightened. So it's very interesting to put yourself in both camps and kind of like see how it works. What the scientific community have been discovering is that most of our universe is missing. I'll just explain this. They have got fantastic new microscopes now that can go into the very tiny. And what they were trying to do is they were trying to discover the solid bit. So if we just take skin, for instance, so skin is made of cells, and cells are made of molecules, and molecules have atoms in the middle. And in the middle of an atom, there is a nucleus. And so what they were trying to do was work out exactly what the solid bit is and what makes the solid bit. So they take the microscope and they go down, and they look and look, and they get even to like little tiny bits called quantum particles. And then, just putting it simply, it's as if the microscope goes straight through and they can't find the solid bit. So come back, look again, go down. And in actual fact, there is no solid bit. So these particles which make up the nucleus, the atoms, are in actual fact just energy, little packets of energy. And they're actually called weird excitations of energy. And these tiny little things are spinning around so fast, and one spins one way, and another spins another way, and another spins another way. And then they form together in like a lattice, which holds together. And all that spinning creates a resistance. And so when you put your hand on something, it feels solid because that resistance is making you feel that you've got something solid there. So if you imagine, for instance, the wheels of a bicycle, it has spokes. So if the bicycle is going round dead fast, then it looks as if the wheel is solid. When the wheel comes to a stop, you can put your hand through the spikes. So that is really exciting stuff, because this means that in actual fact, we are all made of energy, just spinning energy. And that is a huge and amazing fact to get our head around. So that's one thing that's going on with science at the moment. And what I realized was that this could explain something of where the ancients thought that the other realms were, that this we have missing energy as well. I explain this. So what happens in the universe is that we have stars and galaxies, and there's gas out there, and everything has gravity. So if it has mass, or it has weight, it has a body, it has gravity. So you've got gravity, I've got gravity. And a planet has huge gravity, because the more mass you have, the more gravity you have. So what they did was they added up all the mass, everything that they could see in the universe, and they added it all up. And they said, okay, well, in order for everything to stop where it is and not fly apart, then we need to have so much mass, so much material. And they looked, and 96% of it is missing. So everything that would need to be there to hold it together, we can only see 4% of it. 96% of the universe is missing. And a large percentage of this is dark matter, and a large percent of it is dark energy, and they're trying to work out, you know, which is which and where it all is. But what I realized was that this is where the underworld is. This is where the duat is. This is where the angels are, the angelic realms, the ancestors. Because if this other world, this 96%, is there supporting our own world, and it gives it energy with which matter is made, then for me that probably explains everything that is out of phase with us, out of sync with us, but we somehow sense is there. So when people are doing angel card readings, for instance, you know, when we're prophesizing and we just know something, this is coming through from the energy or the knowledge or the gnosis of a parallel universe. Mm-hmm. And the scientists are even speculating, in fact, that there may be as much as 11 other dimensions. One scientist explained it. He said, we're like a loaf of bread. We have sliced bread in England. I don't know if you have that here.
We do. We slice our bread. Yeah.
Oh, good. And he says it's like we're living on one slice, mm-hmm. And there are 11 other slices. And so this actually gets really cool, because what you can do then is you can blame the 96% for everything. You know, everything that goes on. Well, it's in the 96%. And also, I started to realize very quickly that when the 4% was formed, this is like the big bang of science. You know, you have all this energy in the chaos and the unformed realms, the dark matter, dark energy, and in an instant, in a nanosecond, the 4% is formed. So this is like the fall of man in the Christian Bible, or it's like the Big Bang in science. And then lots of other things start to make sense. So the underworld, for instance, let's take the underworld. So with Christianity, which started to take a hold around Italy and the Mediterranean around 300, 400 AD, we began to get a much more aggressive image of the underworld, of hell. So we had burning hellfires and purgatory, and there's images of demons with, you know, horns and toasting forks, and you know, we get told that if we're not good, that's where we'll go. But in actual fact, the underworld for civilizations preceding that was not such a terrible place. They didn't have this burning hellfire image. In actual fact, this image of burning hellfires came from the volcanoes in Italy. The civilizations tend to take their image of the worse or the darker side from the things that are around them, which scare them so much. So there they were in Rome, and lots of volcanic activity. There's a fault line there, and so this got this burning hellfire image, and so that became hell. So in actual fact, we don't need to fear hell or the underworld or the other realm or the 96%. It's there, it supports us, it loves us. It desperately wants us to exist, and so I think this is where science is helping us understand this other realm.
Well, wonderful. Part of your expertise is in astrology. And you've been doing a lot of research around the year 2012 on astrology, because there's been so much worry by people. So what can we expect around 2012?
Right. Okay. So there's a long story here as well. Some authors have fastened on to the fact that there is a prediction, a Mayan prediction about 2012, and they've put together actually two different cultural mythologies here, because the Aztec have a world ages and a world ending myth, but that's the Aztecs. The actual Mayans, we don't have very much information about the Mayans at all. We have very few codices left. Everything was destroyed by the Spanish. But there is this one prophecy in this one place in Mexico that has been found, and it talks about the end of one of their calendars, the Bacton, 13 Bacton, which is no great deal because they had thousands of calendars. They had dozens of time frames. I mean, my calendar ends on the 31st of December every year, and I don't think it's the end of the world. I just put a new calendar up. I mean, it's no big deal. But so the 13th Bacton counts, and the main prediction is, and this is all it is, this one prediction. It says on the inscription, the return of the 9, and then the rest of it is missing. So the whole thing is about the return of the 9, don't know what. So that's that. So I looked at this and I thought, okay, well, if there's going to be the end of the world in a huge apocalypse, then it's going to be in astrology. So I looked ahead at the astrology of 2012 and I couldn't find what they were talking about. There is some really great astrology for the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, so that's June 21st, 2012. But the astrology for December the 21st, 2012 is negligible. It's kind of like everyday astrology. What is happening in astrology is the most enormous transformation which is taking place from the year 2008 through to the year 2016. And so 2012 is just part of this huge cycle. And in actual fact, if you just look around you at the world today, when I wrote this book in 2006, I finished it in 2008, 2009. It took a while to write. There's so much research in there. I'm actually a master's student, so I did it all thoroughly. When I started it, we didn't have the evidence of the revolution that I predict in the book. I predict revolutions of all kinds, but actually I think that these revolutions are a good thing. I think they're a great thing. It's like we've got to take the Titanic and stop it hitting the iceberg here, and so the revolution is actually going to assist us to change directions, and this is what we need. But if you remember, in 2008, we saw the almost collapse of the world banks. I mean, somebody went and joined all the banks up behind our backs. We had no idea this was happening. Suddenly, why can't we get any? It's just all the finance was just unbelievable. But so that kind of like was something that people will resonate with. And we have revolutions in the Middle East now. We have huge potential breakthroughs in science at something called the Large Hadron Collider in CERN in Switzerland. And so what astrology is describing is a massive transformation where the collective kind of screeches to a halt and changes direction just in the nick of time, as it will be. And I think that we are protected. The 96%, which is an intelligent gnosis or energy, is not going to allow the 4% to end, because everything that the 4% is everything that the 96% wants it to be. There's a lovely story actually in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which, if I may tell you, I think it's really cool.
Please.
So the great Atum, the great god, is talking to a soul who has many reincarnations, and he says to this soul, okay, you've finished now, it's okay, you can go on to the higher realms where you have big ascendancy with the great atom, and it's even more rarefied, and you know, it's just you merge with the great one light, it's just fusion with blissed out oblivion. And the soul goes, oh no, I don't want to, I want to go back down to earth. And Atom says, but earth is struggle. The reason earth is there is just a struggle. We need the struggle that gives us wisdom, which we take back to the 96% to raise the standard. So, you know, it's okay, you don't need to. And the soul goes, but it's on earth, we have beer, wine and lovemaking. I want to go back.
Part of the 9s, I guess, or those big 3s.
So we can take from that, and the Egyptian Book of the Dead was copied from previous texts, but it is at least 3,500 years old. So the Egyptians had a really good concept, actually, of the 96%, the 4%. They had an incredible concept of Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt. You go into the tombs and you can see on the ceiling, they had the day and the night clearly shown. Well, the day and the night were metaphors for one realm and the other realm. They understood it completely. So there we go. But we are fully protected in the 4%. The 96% supports us, assists us. it is the epitome, it is the pinnacle. For all the struggle and the fumbling and the mistakes we make and the messes we get into, there is a full support system behind us which really wants us to get it right, really wants to support us, really wants to come in. So I think, we're looked after.
And help us through it. Well, another interesting fact that you were talking about is that 4 of the largest earthquakes have happened in the last 7 years. So does that have any bearing on 2012?
Right. Again, the Earth is in a process. We're in processes which involve absolutely all parts of us. So we're in a spiritual process of transformation. The Earth is in a process of transformation. Yes, you're right. 4 of the great megaquakes, so four of the top 10 great megaquakes of the last 100 years occurred in the last 7 years. That is an amazing statistic. And do I see that we are going to kind of like all finish up, in this Armageddon thing again, this apocalypse with earthquakes and tsunamis? I do think that the Earth is changing, and I do think that the Earth's crust, just like the spirit or soul of the Earth, is in flux and movement. Yes, I do. But again, I remember that the 4% is protected. I think what we will have to accept to do with climate change, and with climate change, I don't get into the argument about whether it's man-made or not. I just say, look, however it's occurring, it is occurring. And another fact that is indisputable is every 100,000 years, the Earth has an ice age. And just because we're here and we're at this stage, we can't expect that the Earth is not going to have another ice age. It's going to have another ice age. So we have to understand that the climate is changing. And what we have to do is we have to speed up our endeavours to get a usable amount of power out of thin air. We need to be able to produce mega amounts of power out of nothing. And the scientists are working towards doing this, because when they tap into the 96%, there is unlimited power there. So we can use this. We can use this power to desalinate seawater. We can use this power to build ourselves security in the 4%, so that when these megaquakes and tsunamis occur, as they are occurring, that we can protect and look after ourselves. So that if we need to have population migration, for instance, which I think is a strong possibility in the centuries to come, we need them to be able to have power so that they can quickly protect themselves, so they can quickly establish what they need to do for their own security, and so that we can produce crops and sustain the population. I mean, another astonishing fact when I was researching this book is that we are going to have to grow as much food in the next 50 years as we grew in the last 10,000. Now that is an astonishing thing that we will have to do. To do this, we need a reusable, clean power that doesn't in any way rob the earth of any of its riches, and that's the thing is the thing that we need to kind of target. And so there we go. That we'll be okay. And yeah, but these facts are quite scary when you kind of look at them like that. Okay, there's going to be, I think there is going to be earthquakes and tsunamis, but as I say, we need to do the best we can to protect the population, understanding that we are in flux and change.
Well, now let's take our focus from the Earth up to the stars.
Yes.
Part of your book, The Future of the Stars, you talk about Pluto and how the scientific community declared it a dwarf planet,
Yes.
which totally changes the realm of astrology,
Yeah.
which is based on Pluto and is part of the
Yeah.
whole structure.
Yeah.
What does that mean for us astrologically?
Yeah. Well, Pluto was always an oddball, I have to be honest, because all the planets occur on a straight line, on a flat plane. So it's like you've got a dinner plate with a fried egg in the middle, and the yolk of the egg is the sun, and then all the planets just revolve in that straight line. Pluto doesn't. He has always been at an angle to this, and so he's always kind of symbolized something that was odd about him. Because of his odd angle, when the astronomers got the latest gizmos and this wonderfully refurbished telescope, the first thing they did was look off this flat plane for other planets. And they found thousands. They found them in a huge ring of stuff that is right around the outside of the solar system that we knew. If we were to go out into space and look back on it, it would look like a buzzing bees. They're all kind of like going all over the place. And this is Pluto's family. This is called the Kuiper Belt. And so it became obvious that it was like one of those cowboy and Indian westerns where the cowboys are all in the middle and one Indian comes up over the hill and you see this one Indian and that's it. And then suddenly thousands come up. This is exactly what we do. With one Indian, Pluto, oh, he's got lots of friends. And so what they had to do was they had to decide, okay, are we going to rewrite the school books every time we get a new planet, which would like be tough, or are we just going to say we have the classical planets, they stop at Neptune, Pluto now belongs to his new classmates, and every time we find loads more planets as we are doing, they are one of the dwarf planets or one of the Kuiper Belt objects that Pluto is part of. So demoting him, no, he hasn't gone anywhere. He's just as powerful in astrology. In fact, he's more powerful now. He's got lots of mates. So we've got at least 5 more Plutos. It's just part of the change. It's the solar system itself is showing us that we are in change and transformation, and we have to learn to accept things which will look different in future to the way they looked in the past.
So talking about the future, what can we expect as humanity in the next decade or so? It sounds like we have a lot of changes around 2012 through the year 2016.
Yeah.
But what's coming up?
As far as astrology is concerned, I think a spiritual revolution. I think that we will move away from the monotheistic religions, that's the one God religions that were centered around the Mediterranean or Asia. And I think we will move towards a more Eastern spiritual paradigm. I think we will start to understand, courtesy of science and knowing about the 96%, I think we will understand that everything is energy, everything is force, everything is spirit, that God exists in all things because everything is made up of this spinning energy. So we pick up on a more Eastern or Buddhist religious paradigm where, Mother Earth has spirit and soul and is regarded as being intelligent and something that we should kind of like value and revere. Because what happened with the one God religions is that we were told we had to worship the God and not Mother Nature. So we lost our contact. We got out of touch with Mother Nature and her cycles. So I think we'll move back to an appreciation of the cycles of Mother Nature. So a spiritual revolution, certainly. A scientific revolution, definitely. And also we have to accept that the world and the climate is changing and we will have to adapt and look after ourselves during this. And the big thing is we have to understand that we are co-creators in this adapting and changing and this transformation. Because the 96% of you and me, our 96%, is connected to the big 96%. We have to understand that our thoughts and our energy and our actions can alter the whole of the 96% of the cosmos. We are co-creators here. We are linked to it. And so when we love the planet and we have concerns for our future and we look after ourselves in this way, we can actually change the future. We can bend the energy. We can get that Titanic and we can avoid that iceberg. And this is a valuable thing for us to know, that we are very strong, that we have the 96%. It's far more powerful than we could ever imagine with our little brains, and we will be well protected.
So does that mean, if you have your astrological sign, like I'm a Sagittarius, does that mean then sometimes my own creative ability is stronger than my sign?
Yes, and if you're a Sagittarius, then I have to say this is a higher fire sign. And Sagittarius almost instinctively knows this anyway. Sagittarians have this confidence about them because they are actually quite tapped into this, they just know. I think that when we understand this paradigm, when we understand about the 96%, all signs and all people can feel stronger and more confident. Because just knowing that means that you're aware that, hey, you're so much bigger and more powerful and more energetic than you ever believed. I mean, people have said to me over the years, you know, when I was young and I was made to go to Sunday school, and I would sit there and I'll be told, you know, that I was, whatever power existed in whatever place. I've always been the sort of person that, when I don't believe that, I need to find out for myself. When I learnt about the scientific discoveries of the 96%, I thought, now I know how powerful I am. Now I know how powerful the cosmos is. Now I know how intelligent it is. And so, yes, I felt more powerful afterwards, and I felt more confident. And I think feeling that just makes us better people and makes us love ourselves. And at the end of the day, it's know thyself. On the Oracle at Delphi, know thyself. So you can know more about yourself in that respect.
Wonderful. Well, Alison, it has been a pleasure to have you here in America. Thank you for coming to join us.
It's been an absolute ball. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really enjoying it.
You're welcome. You can learn more about astrology at our website at newconnectionjournal.com. Join us next time on New Connection, where you can tune in and grow.